Hi, hello, hi, it's Luanda, and I'm losing it, babes. I'm losing it, and welcome to my podcast where I lose it, and it's a back and forth. You know the deal. I have a very important guest with me, and I say very important because I think I love this man more than I love myself.
Be for real. Be fucking for real.
Yeah. Stupid. And yeah, I'm doing this interview in a self format because I thought to myself, people have autobiographies.
Why not?
Exactly. And honestly, what I really hope this interview to be is, I guess, the most comfortable way I can tell you guys about how this guy over here dropped out of med school, and honestly, it's one of the best things he's ever done for himself. And I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah, and it's your stage. Let's talk about you. Just tell us about your whole undergrad experience in like a good 5 minutes.
Well, that's a lot of pressure. Like, how do I summarize what 5 years, some months in a few minutes? But I want to acknowledge that there's been some ups. There's been some ups. It's been really, really good. There's been times where I've helped people, and there's been times that I've learned a lot. And going from like student to fully in the clinical platform, it's been good. It's been good, but it's also been bad.
Let's get more. Yeah, I think let's get more into when medicine for you sort of stopped having that joy. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I think 2022 would be around that time where, listen, I had done my early clinical and I told myself that mid-clin is where I'm going to find something that I actually enjoy. First you want to learn the skills, and then secondly, you want to be able to, after learning the skills, see what's for you. And there was a time after finishing my mid-clinical where I genuinely was like praying. I was telling like everyone, I was like, guys, I need to find a specialty that is for me. And I was honestly giving up hope. Until I found psychiatry. I love psychiatry. It's like the one thing that I think really kept me going.
Okay.
And I think from 2022, about a year ago, was when I was doing my elective in occupational therapy, but it was also in child psychiatry. And I think that was the last time I was really happy going to hospital. And I think knowing that there's something for me that I could want to do and I could really, really do well. Like, I love psychiatry. It makes me happy. So knowing that there is a future for me in medicine, but knowing that in order to get there, I still have to go through like just internship and all of the things that are unhealthy for me, which I guess we'll get into. But yeah, I think that was the last time where I was like, I have something in this career, but I don't necessarily think that it's for me or for me in the way that I would like it to be. It takes a little bit too much. You know what I mean?
Quitting obviously isn't the first go-to option. Like, at some point when you were doing your elective, as you were saying, like, you knew that you just didn't want to do medicine a lot, or at least that time, because the one thing you said was, I needed my elective to not be, in anything that's going to be from a doctor's perspective, which is I think a really great thing for you to do. But it sounds like it's been like a year. Like, exactly a year ago, you were in this place, and that was the last time you were really happy in medicine, right?
No, you know what? Let's be honest. Let's be honest, guys. It's been downhill since the SI badge.
The SI badge. The SI badge, the SI badge, the SI badge. Now, for a little bit of context, if you're watching this and you don't necessarily know, I guess the medical hierarchy, it's like you're a medical student, and then in your final year, normally you get like a student intern badge. I don't know if other universities do it. Telemosh does it. But it's sort of like an ordained, you have a lot more responsibility now. And it's been sort of downhill from that badge, if I'm hearing correctly.
Like, I swear, I got that final year badge and I was being taught less somehow.
The assumption had changed.
Exactly. Okay. I was being taught less. I was doing more, and I was just like, this is not live, love, love. Why am I here for so many hours and I'm not even having a good time?
So, if all of this culminates into you need a break and you take that break. Like, what's that process sort of looked like in terms of you just halting your studies? What does quitting mean for you right now, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say first, the word quit is very strong. Like, everything already has a framework, and I can always go back to it. Like, I have 5 years. If push comes to shove, I can always just
Yeah, like you have the solid foundation. So
yeah,
you can
yeah.
always go back. Yeah.
So I can always go back. So when I say quit, I think it's more so I can actually fully dissect and move myself from a toxic system. And
okay, I get that. Okay, I think we're gonna take a little bit of a break. Leander here is gonna, I don't know, tell you a very, very horrific story about medicine, just to recenter us and just remind you that honestly, it really was rough when he left. Okay. All right. So now there's a very distinct word that you used. You said psychological. You said being in undergrad for 6 years has been psychological. And can you just explain more on that?
I don't know, man. There's an aspect of being societally stunted that comes with being in med school for so long. I think, you watch your peers get cars, they graduate, they get married, and all of this stuff, and that's good. And
but I hope you realize that it wasn't stagnation though. Like, you're the sort of person who you haven't just been in university for 6 years. It's not just the education aspect of it. Like, you did student leadership from Prim committee chair to Tagaba committee chair to, like, there's just a lot of these. You've done a lot of student leadership on Tigerberg, and you're the sort of person who, you recognize the growth that's happened. So, I mean, I feel like it's a little bit unfair for you to say stagnation, wouldn't you say?
Yes and no. There was a time when I genuinely felt like I was stagnating, and I started challenging myself to do more of these things.
When did you realize that medicine necessarily, though, as you mentioned, like, you're still interested in it and you love it, but the reason you're leaving is because it's damaging to self, right? Am I getting that correct?
Yeah. I mean, if I reflect on my past few years, I don't want to sound too negative, but like, I had to do a lot of work with my psychologist. I had to do a lot of work with my.
Talk more about your little alcoholic bender.
I was about to.
Is that something you're comfortable talking about? I was there, but like, they weren't.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell the truth. Sometimes when you're like really, really stressed and you're a medical student, you happen to drink a lot. And one time I drank a lot after a very, very long month in internal medicine. Rough, babes. It was rough. I was tired. I was just feeling low.
Continuing on, it's not the first time that you in terms of academic stress, have really leaned towards the bottle, a little bit too much, if you might say. Is it something you're ashamed of, if you could say?
I mean, listen, I came from a family that has a very complex relationship with alcohol, so I'm not going to pretend as if it's
just like literal videos of us just drinking gin straight out of the bottle, to be honest, during the pandemic. And that was also when, as you mentioned, that a lot of the feelings around continuing this degree is when you really felt it was damaging to you, because, oh man, the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, listen, 2020 was a rough time, and I remember being isolated from my friends and all of that stuff. Like with anyone, I ended up really, really going hard on the alcohol. Gin was my flavor of choice. I remember just being like, I need to succeed in this career. It's not working out for me. I'm stressed all the time. There's always test after test after test. The uncertainty that COVID brought with all of the stuff. So yeah, in 2020, I drank a lot. I drank the pain away. I drank the grief away. But it's something that I'm not ashamed of, because I think it was a valid process. And I think now, looking back at my relationship with alcohol, even after like waking up and randomly on the floor of a hospital one time because of alcohol poisoning, never again. Dangerous stuff, guys. Very, very dangerous stuff. But in actuality, I can genuinely say that I've gotten. No, I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not ashamed of it because I think at the time I really was trying to cope the best that I can. I think I was in some dark spaces after feeling exceedingly small in a career that I chose with my whole chest. And I think that's something that's normal. The alcohol portion of it, a little bit excessive, but it's something that I have become a cognizant of. Like, when you stress, you get a little heavy handed there. And like with anything, it's just been something that I've had to self regulate. And um, I don't know. I'm not gonna say my school drove me to alcoholism. I think that would be blaming a lot on it. I would, however, say that knowing better, just like from the medical point of view, and it's one of the reasons why I feel like that weird internal conflict in terms of I lived an unhealthy life in med school, and I would live an unhealthy life in internship. In order to make those 24-hour calls, like I would have to do some crazy things in order to be okay with being that much owned by the government. For me personally, it it might have taken me down some dark paths, but I always acknowledge my part in it. And no one held a gun to my head and said drink, boy. No one held a gun to my head and said stay in med school. But it's just something that I have noticed, that when shit hits the fan in med school, or I guess in the career of health sciences, I personally tend to lean a lot on the bottle, and I did not like who that was making me, and I did not like that trajectory for my lifestyle. I had to go, babes. I had to go.
Exactly. Guys, PSA, just for everyone, go to therapy. Doja herself did say, D, you need to go to therapy. She's so good. I'm dying. But yeah, honestly, I think when you start seeking a healthier life, it becomes a lot easier to see ways out of it. You know what I mean? And although ending up on the floor of that hospital was kind of horrendous, I would say it was good for you at that point. Okay, right. So obviously, life looks like it's going good for you now. You know, we've been stalking your Instagram. We see you and your boo going out, your friends, y'all are having a good time. You honestly look like you're happier than you were a few months ago. Um, I hope that's a correct assumption. But I think even more, I want to ask a more specific question. And it's sort of question that comes down to what sort of. Let me start bullshitting you. Do you regret it? That's really the question that people want to know. Do you regret pausing your career, pivoting your career, whatever that means? Do you regret the fact that you're not going to be graduating this year with your peers? Do you have any regrets?
I love a subtle hint. No, I don't have any regrets. I've never been a person who regrets anything, because I think when shit's hit the fan for me, I always like I trust my judgment, and I trust my intuition, and I trust what that means for me.
And your intuition served you well. I'm not gonna lie. It's gotten you quite some good places. Not, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So no, I don't regret it. I think I needed a break, and everyone around me could see it.
Okay, so you don't regret it, and even more so, you sound like positive about your next chapter. And you know, what is your next chapter? Everybody wants to know.
Everybody wants to know my next chapter.
no, like for real. Like, it's just like, hey, how you doing? What are you up to? What are you doing? What's next? Are you coming back?
Like people were in my business. Yeah. They really were, but it's because they care. I mean, what's next? What isn't next? I don't know. I think I'm tired of boxing myself in terms of what I want to do. I think I love the creativity of hopping from photography to styling clothes, and whether that be like from my secondhand thrift store I have online, or just taking pictures with my boo. Like I'm trying to build this network of creativity where I, you know, the pictures that I have are of clothes that I styled, and it becomes part of my portfolio. Um, I'm basically trying to find a way to live life as me and have that just be enough. I'm pursuing my art. I'm pursuing the podcast. I'm pursuing YouTube. I'm honestly just doing whatever I want, and for the first time, that shit feels good.
And I'm glad you can talk about it now. But back then, it was rough. Just now that I guess we're in a better place, one of the reasons I'm able to do this now is that honestly, there was a time when I had stopped, and I was telling myself that I know that this is what's good for me, but I also, the people pleaser in me did not have the capacity to be able to explain that to everyone, because I knew it would hurt them. Because try as I might, I was not convincible. Like I was exhausted, and from an interviewer perspective right now on the podcast, I think you're doing good for yourself. I love self-affirmation. Up next, another question that we have, and this is something that honestly you've heard from, your family, your friends, like everyone around you.
The big, you're almost at the end. Just hang. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard you're almost at the end. Just keep going. Just hang in there, and that is so valid. That is so valid, besties. However, I couldn't do it. I couldn't. I was at zero.
You tried. You really tried. And that also want to just thank everybody who's given me advice. My academic advisor, my bursary advisor. I had a lot of people in my life who were being like, just keep going. Like, just keep going. You're almost there. And it was very hard to tell people that, yeah, you just couldn't keep going.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, it's not even at the end. That's what bothered me. People would be like,
You had not begun. Yeah.
I hadn't begun. This is just mid school. It's like when you do a workout and you're tired at the warm up. This has just been the warm up. There will be many deaths in the future. There will be many times when I feel low. There'll be,
and I mean, you're a tough kid. You're a tough kid. You've had jobs ever since you've been in university, and from mentorship to house committee stuff, you've been able to always get yourself a consistent amount of income above and beyond school. So you're gonna do fine. And I wish I could take away your financial worry, because it's there and it's not gonna go anywhere. But that's sort of the price and the gambling that comes with following your heart and your intuition. It's not the sort of thing that comes with, there's no one at the end of the road who's like, congratulations, here's a check for 10 million because you did.
Oh girl, would I love a check for 10 million? Would I love a check?
I'm glad that you feel confident that there are other things you can pursue, and that there are other skills that, just looking back on the degree in itself, your organizational skill, your time management, your ability to switch timelines from working 24 hours to working days, working over 40 weeks. You had a consistent track record of knowing how to be an employee. You know what? I don't know if the people will want us to hang out again, bestie. To be honest, all we can really say for now is I'm proud of you. I'm proud for the fact that you came here, and for the fact that honestly you weren't ready to talk about this, but you know that leaving medicine was the best thing that you could do for your psyche. It was the best thing you could do for you, and for that I'm extremely proud.
I really said, I'm not staying here, love. I'm not.
You've done the work. You've CPR'd. You've done that. Didn't even notice. You've done that. You've been in the surgery. So I mean, I'm glad that you're not leaving. If you had left a little bit earlier, and something you mentioned, sorry, off screen, Leander mentioned, that they genuinely have gotten to do a lot of things, and you wouldn't have left earlier because then you weren't sure. Now you've been exposed to a lot. It's like it's the final year. It hasn't sold you now. It's never gonna sell you, and it only gets uphill from now.
It's the climb.
You are working the least amount of hours you're gonna work for the next 3 years. So I get it.
Of course you get it. You're me.
Any last words you want to say to the people before we round off?
Honestly, I just want to say I have appreciated everyone's I guess patient me, my people in my life, patience, support, love, words. They might not always be what I want to hear, but like I didn't just quit med school one day without consulting anybody. And I know what everyone wants for me, and I know what I want for myself, and I don't know. I think all I can really say is sometimes you have to put yourself first, and I think that's the first time that I've just been able to be like, you know what, it's never that deep. It's just the degree. Is it worth your life? So really, really, I don't know. I think everyone's post is valid. That's what I want to leave everyone with.
I don't know. You think your outfit's better than mine? I'm sorry. I'm giving you futuristic. I'm giving you elf. I'm giving you fairy. You're giving me like what? You're giving me more
schoolboy, but like teacher, but also like
teacher doesn't know what they want to do in life.
Old money.
Yeah, I read you. Okay, thank you for coming me. Thank you for coming me. Oh my god, literally no one. Wow. It's just me in a room. I hate when the facade breaks and you realize that in actuality, it is just a set that you staged. You're interviewing yourself as not really there. Bye! Okay, I think whenever someone asks me to tell them a very wild story about med school, I always think back to the time when I was placed in Northern Cape. Randomly, they just put me in Northern Cape in the middle of nowhere, and I remember there was this big accident because the roads in the Northern Cape are pretty windy. So there was this big accident. It was an MVA. There was a family of, I can't remember how. There was a mom and there was a 4-ish kids and a father and an aunt. So it was a very big family traveling in a car, and there was this big accident. And they called us and they're medical students, we need you now. And it was the weekend, and we were just minding our fat black business, and we that shocked us, oh my god, they're calling us for help. It's getting deep. We go to the hospital, we're scrubbed up, we're helping, we're doing the damn thing. Everyone gets a file. They're like, you, Miss Ma'am, take this 4-year-old, you take this. This is the mom. She was involved in the accident. Go get information from her as well. I'm like, I bet I'll go treat that mama. I'm like, hey girl, how you doing? It was rough. It was very, very sad. And it was so emotional in the room because there's this mom who she was the one driving, and she felt very oh my god, my family, she felt it was her fault, and it really is an accident just caused by the wind. But I think I always tell this story because to ever see a family in peril is something that I don't think I'll ever forget. I saw them pray in no one's ever prayed before, and they even had me go into the prayer circle, which was also quite conflicting because at the time I was having my own conflicting issues about religion and stuff. So it just didn't help to be in this environment where there was so much hope hinging on this prayer. Me on the medical side, knowing that this isn't gonna have a very happy outcome. One of the children was hurt really, really bad. They had a C-spine injury. It was rural medicine, so they had to be flown out. It was not gonna be the sort of thing where we pray and immediately it's fixed, and it was tough. And I think my mid school career, I don't know, wherever people practice, it's different all over the world, but I think any South African healthcare practitioner, be it a nurse, physio, I think anyone, just if you ask them about their stories, can tell you some of the most horrific and the most uncomfortable. I wish I wasn't in that room. I'm glad I was in that room because I could help, but at the same time, it was really, really
painful. And yeah, I think I tell that story a lot because it's something that I think changed me, but it's also one of those times where I felt grateful to have learned enough to be helpful, but to be human enough to understand those complexities. I think, unfortunately, it's one of those last times when I had that pure empathy, because after that it was blunted. Because after that, the next day they were just like, oh yeah, that kid passed away, and I was like, well, damn, you know, I pray we prove about it. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey being a person and trying to be a doctor. It's one of the reasons I'm leaving is because it feels a little bit hypocritical for me to claim that I'm someone who wants to be able to help people and benefit their health when I existed in a system that was not healthy for me. And I think I'll deep dig there. I'll probably talk more about that, but yeah, leaving was a hard decision. The last day that I actively remember going to like clean out some of my stuff in one of the offices I was working at, I I cried. I cried, and I cried because it felt insanely bizarre to me that this was the end of my story, but not bizarre as in like I wish it wasn't happening. Bizarre in that, I don't know, I personally feel like having learned the things that I've learned in med school, I'm the better for it, so I don't regret going. Anyway, that was the story, guys. Like, that's just one story of, I think, thousands that any healthcare practitioner in South Africa particularly can tell you. And I don't know, just as someone who's now exiting a very toxic system, I want to take this time to just be like healthcare professionals out there, besties, guard your heart, guard your mind. It's rough. It's really, really, really rough. There's a reason that it's one of the most depressive careers out there. Is because I think a lot of us go into it with so much hope and so much like enthusiasm, like change the world, and there are aspects of that, but at the same time there are detrimental effects to self, to relationships, to health. Sometimes you're too sick to even show up, but not showing up means that you don't get a certain signature, and thus can hold back your whole career trajectory for what you've been working for your whole life. So there's always a lot of stressor, and I just want to take this time out to be like, guard your mental health, besties. That's like my last bit of advice as I leave this toxic system. That being said, if you do see me, if I do return to medicine because life has just led me back that way, I'll